Hello and welcome. My name is Zafar Iqbal, and you're watching the Mojo Story. Khalistanis have gone on a rampage in Canada. You can see on those videos, these are Khalistani separatists. They are attacking Hindu devotees outside of a temple at in Canada. Now, this temple at Brampton near Toronto, where they had gathered for prayers post Diwali, they were attacked by the Khalistanis, and it is not just one temple, but there are reports that similar sort of incidents took place in other places like Surrey. Now, India has strongly condemned attack by this pro-Khalistani mob. India has, in fact, said in a statement that we've seen violent disruptions today orchestrated by anti-India elements outside the consular camp organized with the Hindu Sabha Mandir, Brampton near Toronto, the Indian consulate has said in a statement. And it added that on account of the prevailing security situation in Canada, the Canadian authorities have been requested well in advance to provide strong security measures for these events, which constitute routine consular work. Now, this is the situation in Canada. Every day we are seeing some sort of a provocation coming from Canada. It seems like Khalistani separatists and the authorities, the system, working hand in glove. Otherwise, how can these people get so much liberty that they can come wielding lathis and attack the devotees in a temple? To speak more on this, we're joined by Veena Sekri, former diplomat. Welcome to the show, ma'am. What is your first reaction when you see these videos? They are viral on the social media. It's not just one video, but there are multiple videos. These Khalistanis actually attacking devotees who had gathered peacefully in a temple. Has India Canada relation gone worse than this, or this is the worst that we're seeing?
You're absolutely right. The situation is getting from bad to worse. Every day you think that something worse cannot happen, and it does happen. I think the attack on the worshippers, the Hindu worshippers at the temple in Brampton, is really yet another example how they were completely not being stopped by the police. In fact, I have got a further update on that, that when some of the Hindu devotees, and there was a clash between the Khalistanis and the devotees, and when some of them took the Khalistani flag and attempted to do something with it, the police stopped them and said, "No, you dare to touch that flag, we will arrest you." And Canadian citizens are writing saying that you can burn the Canadian flag, you can burn the Israeli flag, but the Royal Canadian Mounted Police insists that you cannot touch the Khalistani flag. So I think this they're calling it a two-tier policing. Even Canadian citizens are talking about that and tweeting about this. So I think the situation is really gone to absolute depths, and it is a situation that has been getting worse since last year. And on the basis of what? I mean, you accuse, one person dies, Hardeep Singh Nijjar, and the Prime Minister suddenly says in Parliament in Canada that they're credible allegations. I mean, there's absolutely no evidence being given. For 1 year, India has been asking for evidence. We also know that even the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, in their initial report, said that it's probably the result of gang war. There was an internal, because there's a lot of clash between different gurdwaras. There's a lot of clash for control of the gurdwaras because all the finances go with the control of the gurdwaras. So that is something which happens there all the time among the various Khalistani groups. But then Prime Minister Trudeau has made it into a big issue, bringing in the Five Eyes, bringing in USA, bringing in UK. But we do know that both Australia and New Zealand have told the Canadian government that unless you show us the evidence, we are not going to make any statement on this. So I think that I'm saying all this to show that most individuals, countries, media men, they all realize what is going on. But Prime Minister Trudeau is just going from one depth to another. It's absolutely unacceptable. He's trying to create a kind of a global opinion against India. He's trying to personally attack Prime Minister Modi's government. They're trying to accuse even the Home Minister, all kinds of fake allegations which are being made. It are totally unacceptable. And certainly the government of India is going to take even stronger action than they have already taken. We have already expelled the Canadian High Commissioner and senior diplomats from the Canadian High Commission. But there is still further, I'm sure that our government must be considering even further action, because the situation has got even worse after that.
Veena Sikriji, the point that you raise that the police we can see on those visual the police is trying to disperse the people. Who are these people? They are the devotees. Now most of these people who had come there are Canadian citizens. I just want to play up one particular video where a woman who's cornered by the police is pointing to one policeman and saying that this is the man who specifically beat us up, and he is a Khalistani. If we can play that video clip with sound up.
He he is the one. 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 Sir, take him out. Take him out. He is the one.
He is the one. He's specifically pointing at one policeman who is actually, rather than blocking those people who had come brandishing those flags of Khalistan, is actually putting aside the people, the devotees, and pushing them around. And this woman, brave woman, standing up and pointing at that policeman and saying that he is the one who is targeting us. So this is the situation. This video was shared by one of the journalists from Canada, but this tells you a lot. This tells a big story that what is happening around. It is basically these people who had gathered. They were to given some sort of certificates for pension by the Indian consulate, and this is what has happened. Now, how can this happen? How is it legal? If people are coming together in a peaceful assembly, how can they be attacked? What can they do? What is the recourse for the people who are gathered there for a for prayers? They come to a temple. What are they supposed to do?
Well, I think two things immediately. First of all, they must launch a strong appeal to the Canadian government, to the Canadian Parliament, to all the ministers, and point it out, because the way that the Canadian government is operating, their police is really attacking the Hindu devotees. This is some
Yeah,
kind of Hindu phobia they are
yeah,
generating over there. I think that it must be combated, and
yeah,
certainly I think our consulate people who were there and who were helping the devotees over there, they will certainly
yeah,
also take it up very strongly,
yeah,
because they have all these videos, they know exactly what is going on, and these people are acting as though they are working for the Khalistanis. I mean, this is an
yeah,
absolutely unbelievable situation that has emerged in Canada, and
right.
of course, Justin Trudeau has said that he's sort of condemned the attacks on the Hindu Sabha Mandir, but his policemen are obviously operating under his government's instructions, and they are doing something else. So I think there must be a very strong appeal being launched on this, and there must be absolutely unequivocal, and there must be shown all over the world to show what is the Canadian government doing, what is their intention. I mean, people are talking even in the Canadian media. I saw something where saying, yes, well, why don't you give part of Canada to the Khalistanis and let them have their own Khalistan there? Because certainly in India there is no interest or support for any kind of Khalistan. So I don't know what they are doing. It's absolutely unbelievable.
You spoke about Justin Trudeau. He has in fact tweeted. He has condemned this sort of an incident. He said that the acts of violence at the Hindu Sabha Mandir in Brampton today are unacceptable. Every Canadian has the right to practice their faith freely and safely. Thank you to the Peel Regional Police for swiftly responding to protect the community and investigate this incident. This is a very generic tweet. He's mum about
Yes.
Khalistan and Khalistanis who are actually provoking
And
and
who
causing the disruption.
Yes, and number one, who attacked them? They're the Khalistani. So that is they have to be mentioned. Secondly, he's talking about the Peel Regional Police. But as you saw from the video, it is the same regional police that is being accused by the participants over there as being, as attacking the people who had come to the Hindu temple, and no mention about who attacked them. So I think this is very biased, completely biased, and it doesn't seem to give any sense of confidence to the members of the Canadian. They're all Canadians. They're members of the Canadian community, but followers of the Hindu faith who have come to this temple for their worship, for their prayers, for their other work that they may have, and they have been attacked, which is absolutely unprecedented. And nothing is happening to the Khalistanis. They are being, completely protected by the police.
And how should India respond? India has issued those condemnation notes, it has expelled the diplomats in the past. But what more can India do and should do? Because this issue seems to be escalating by the day.
Yes, I think certainly the Indian government will not take this lying down. The Indian government will continue its process of protest. There are other actions on the diplomatic field that can be taken. I'm sure they are being considered by the government of India, and they will announce these measures in a day or two, or very shortly. I'm sure, because there are other actions, but they have to be considered. They have to be taken very carefully. We have to talk to many people to see. But I'm sure, because this is not going to be taken lying down, that is absolutely a given. There's no doubt about that.
If you see the timeline, a year ago, Justin Trudeau stood up in Canadian Parliament and said that agents of the government of India are responsible for the assassination of a Canadian citizen who India says is a terrorist, Hardeep Singh Nijjar. And a year later, he says the same thing, but says that he made those allegations on the basis of intelligence inputs and not on the basis of any evidence. Then his deputy foreign minister actually names India's home minister, says that India's home minister is giving the orders to create trouble in Canada. And now we're seeing these acts of violence go without any punishment. They are there. Why do they do it? Because they can do it. There is nobody who can stop them. The system does not stop them. The government does not stop them. The law enforcement agencies do not stop them. So how is it going to end in the long run? It is just going to go beyond this, because we're seeing every day some sort of a new development, and we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow.
There seems to be, maybe it is the domestic political compulsions of Prime Minister Trudeau, but that is no excuse at all, because his own popularity ratings are dropping absolutely to rock bottom levels. But to use India and to use Canadians of Indian origin who are legal citizens of Canada, and to affect their rights for worship, and to absolutely ignore the violence being conducted by the Khalistanis. I mean, I think this is completely unacceptable. And even we heard that the celebrations of Diwali in the Canadian Parliament were cancelled, and it's something that, as they build up to an election, one can see them trying to use this more and more. But I don't think India is going to stay quiet on this, because I think this is a question where even the video evidence that you have, other people have, there are many other videos. They're calling Canadian citizens are calling it two-tier policing. That the policemen are given or something else. We know that even Hardeep Singh Nijjar, whose death is being discussed, he was actually condemned as a terrorist from India, and India had asked for his extradition. And the government of Canada, instead of taking action on that, gave him citizenship. So they do not even do any due process in giving citizenship to people who have committed acts of terrorism in other countries. So I think this is a very fragile system of giving citizenship, completely one-sided and completely not in keeping with international rules of law. I think all these issues that Canada is ignoring completely are something that has to be taken up globally, because Canada is taking it up globally. Within our own country, we are taking it up. We are going to be considering it very seriously. But globally too, to isolate Canada on this subject is very important, because they are trying. They're using, from beginning by saying something like credible allegations, they went on getting further and further on the same issue, and talking about the minister being involved, talking about a government being involved, talking about a high commissioner being involved. We withdrawn our high commissioner because we don't want to expose him to that. Now we have expelled the Canadian high commissioner. And now even the few diplomats that remain there, they are under audio and video surveillance, which is completely against the Vienna Convention on treatment of diplomats, on the immunities that their diplomats enjoy. So they're violating every rule in the book, whether it is international Vienna Convention rules, whether it is their own domestic laws of freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, freedom of religion, and even instructing their own police to be biased in their treatment of different groups of people. This is absolutely unheard of. And when there was that trucker strike, if you remember last year,
Yeah.
immediately within one day, Prime Minister told the truckers, "You get back, or I will freeze your bank accounts. I will do this. I will take action." All kinds of threats he gave them. But here, this has been continuing for more than 1 year. There were devastating kinds of, these trailers, these exhibitions showing the murderous scenes of former Prime Minister Indira Gandhi and so on, and nothing happened. So it's a very, very biased system, and it doesn't give any credit to a country like Canada to be running a system which is so biased, which is so one sided, which is not in keeping with its own constitution and its own laws.
The question is that Canada says that these people have the right to freedom of speech, and that is why they are doing it. They have a right to protest peacefully in courts, and that's why they are doing it. They are permitting that. But what about the rights of all those people who are beaten up? What about their safety? They are, most of them are Canadian citizens.
The point is that the right of freedom of speech, right of assembly, all these rights under any constitution, Canadian, UK, USA, they have to be exercised in a peaceful manner. So that is the whole point. You may have the right of assembly, the right of coming together, a right of saying whatever you want, but it's in a peaceful manner. Now, the moment the peace is broken, and the moment, as you said, that these Khalistanis are attacking the peaceful worshippers with sticks, they have come prepared to attack them. The peace is being broken. They are committing violence against another group of people, and the policeman is protecting them. So obviously, this is not in keeping with the Canadian law, with any international law, or even the Canadian law. So I think all these things have to be pointed out not once but 100 times. It doesn't matter how many times, because only if you keep on pointing it out will the Canadian citizens themselves are realizing. As I've said, there's so many tweets now from Canadian citizens, from
Yeah,
individuals say that, look, this is not it. This is not the way it's done. We have
right.
seen that the Royal Canadian Mounted Police is running some kind of a two-tier policing, one for the
Yeah,
Khalistanis and one for the rest. So all
yeah,
these realizations are coming to the people of Canada, and the
right.
more it comes, the better it is. I'm sure our government will take strong action.
And in the meantime, the Canadian National Council of Hindus and Hindu Federation, along with temple leaders and Hindu advocacy groups, have released an official statement, and that says that politicians of all political parties will no longer be allowed to use temple facilities for political purposes. What I'm trying to understand is that when such a event takes place, generally there is an information given in advance to the people who are in control of the system, like the commissioner, like the police head of that particular province, that this is going to happen and these people are going to come here. And despite those advance, information given to all the concerned quarters, still the Khalistanis could come and go on a rampage, beating about the people, wielding lathis. This also tells a lot about the system, how broken and how fragile this system is.
Oh, certainly it does. And it's completely broken. It's a completely two-tier. It's one rule for one set of people and another rule for another set of people, which is, of course, the most biased kind of system that you can have, where theoretically you have a democratic free system, but in practice, it is not operating at all. It's broken. It's the law keepers are being told that they have to operate separately for different groups of people. I cannot imagine a more broken down democratic, so-called democratic system. So I think that this again has to be called out again and again. These examples have to be piled up, have to be put into it and told to everybody. And we don't accept it at all. And I'm sure that this is not going to stay just at this level. It's going to be taken up even more strongly, as our spokesman has been repeatedly saying, and he will continue to say it, and the government will take its own action.
And also, this indicates that Khalistanis have infiltrated the system in a big way. In all the departments, they seem to have infiltrated, and that's why they do all this. They cannot do this if the system stops them, restricts them. But the system does not do that, which makes one to infer that perhaps they have infiltrated all the layers of the system, and not just the ruling party, but even the conservatives who cancel the Diwali function.
Yes. No, absolutely. I think that during the time when the Khalistani group, the NDP, was in partnership alliance with Trudeau's party, they definitely would have infiltrated all the system. But now, even though they have technically withdrawn support, but they're still giving support to Trudeau's party for various, purposes, votes of confidence, and so on. And as you said rightly, even the leader of the opposition, the Conservative Party, who I thought had a different view, but they too have cancelled the Diwali celebration. So I think that it's a question for first to arouse the public a view on this in Canada and all across the world, that Canada is no longer a democracy. Canada is a completely biased system, and they're biased on the basis of religion, which, I mean, it couldn't be a worse bias, you know. And I think that this has to be brought out, because I think the sooner the Canadian citizens realize it, what their government is up to, the better it will be. So I just hope that all this works out very quickly, very systematically. The opposition, the evidence has to be collected to present to the Canadian government and to the rest of the world. And people in India are furious with it. There is not a single person in India who has any respect left for the Canadian government, for the Canadian people, for the biased way in which they are operating, for the way they are treating the Canadian citizens of who follow the Hindu faith, you know, and the way they are being partial to the other citizens. So this is something that is very, very different. So I hope that this will be done that way.
In fact,
No,
the government has also come out strongly. In one of the ministers had strong words to say after this incident took place. If we can play up that soundbite.
देखो, जो पिछले दिनों खबरें आ रही हैं, कनाडा में जो हालात बने हुए हैं, ये एक किसी मजहब की बात नहीं है। हिंदू हो, सिख हो, सबके लिए ये ट्रूडो साहब हैं, जो प्राइम मिनिस्टर साहब हैं, इस तरीके से उन्होंने डिवाइड कर दिया है। वहां पे जो खालिस्तानी एलिमेंट हैं, उनको 2 दिनों से मंदिरों के सामने, जो हमारे पूजा की जगह है, जो पिछले दिनों त्योहार थे हमारे, चाहे दिवाली थी और थी, तो उसके लिए वहां पे लोग इकट्ठे हो रहे थे। तो खास तौर पे हर जगह इस आदमी ने कि हिंदुस्तान के लोग और पंजाब के खास तौर पे लोग वो पीसफुली वहां पे रह ना सकें, यहां से उनके बच्चे ना जा सकें, फैमिलीज ना जा सकें, उसे रोकने के लिए, ये खास तौर पे डिस्टर्ब करने के लिए ये कुछ खालिस्तानी, जो किसी के नहीं है, ना हिंदुओं के ना सिखों के, लेकिन आप देखिए किस तरीके से उनकी पुलिस, बिल्कुल ट्रूडो साहब की जो पुलिस है वो खालिस्तानियों की पक्ष में खड़ी दिख रही है। उनके अंदर मंदिर में आके वहां पे अटैक किए जा रहे हैं और उनको कोई रोकने के लिए तैयार नहीं है। वो किस तरीके से वो वहां पे नारेबाजी कर रहे हैं, खालिस्तान की ओपनली बात कर रहे हैं, ये बर्दाश्त नहीं किया जाएगा। हम अपने लोगों को, हिंदुस्तानी जो भारत के, चाहे 3-3 पीढ़ियां वहां हो गई, लेकिन बिल्कुल भी ये बर्दाश्त नहीं किया जाएगा। बड़ी मजबूती से हम इसे, सख्ती से, ये कनाडा की गवर्नमेंट के अगेंस्ट कहीं तक भी जाना पड़े वो जाएंगे, लेकिन हम अपने हिंदू भाइयों को, सिखों को जो अमन पसंद हैं, ये तो कुछ लोग हैं जिनको आप यूज कर रहे हो, ये आपके पेरोल पे हैं, आपके मतलब ये खरीदे हुए मस्टंडे हैं जिनको आप खालिस्तान के नारे लगवाने के और उनको झंडे दे के खड़े कर देते हो। लेकिन ये बहुत एक मैसेज जो है दुनिया में, आपके देश का भी और आपके प्राइम मिनिस्टर साहब का, कोई छवि जो है उनकी कोई बची नहीं है।
Ravneet Singh Bittu, the union minister, strong words by him, obviously perhaps reflecting the sentiment of a majority of the people of this country. The point is that there are so many Indians who are living in Canada. How would they be feeling right now? There would be definitely a sense of insecurity and uncertainty as well.
Well, I agree there will be insecurity and uncertainty, but I think they are determined to fight this. They're determined to fight it. They're not going to give in. And I think what the Honorable Minister has said is very correct. He is reflecting the feelings of the people of India, that this is a ploy to divide the Hindus and Sikhs in Canada, and to divide the Hindus and Sikhs in India as well. But he's speaking in very strongly in favor of unity, in favor of bringing the people together and together fighting it. And in Canada, it's the same, because the vast majority of the Sikh community are moderates. They want to have their life there. They want to, follow their own businesses, follow their own education. They're not interested in all this kind of divide. And they know that the people of India, whether they're Sikhs or Hindus, they don't want this kind of divide on the basis of Khalistan. So I think the Honorable Minister has spoken very well, and that's the message which is going to go out from the Indian government, from the people of India, to everybody all across the world, and to the people of Canada, that they have to fight for their rights of unity, fight for their rights to worship, to practice the freedom of worship without being disturbed, and without having the local police, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, taking sides in this matter. So this is what has to be done, and I think with the support of statements like have been made by Honorable Minister, we will be able to fight it and end this very soon.
Right. And it's so important to fight it and end it very soon, as you say, because the things seem to be going out of hand. We'll have to leave it here. Veena Sikri, thanks so much for joining us. And thanks to all our viewers for watching the Mojo Story.
It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.